Hey there, I am so glad that you are here. This episode today is in response to the episode prior to this that was published about me reflecting on my intentions and my approach to maternity leave. And I thought it would be fun to record an episode where I have the chance to respond to my old past self. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip, kind of a synopsis of some of the things that I recorded in the previous episodes so that we can all have a refresh. And then I'm going to come back and respond to some of the things that I said. So, I hope you enjoy the refresh, and I'll be back where we can talk about the nitty gritty and see how my perspective has changed now that I have gone through maternity leave and returned to work and have a lot more context and insight. So take a look at the clip from our last episode, and I'll be right back with you. How do I downshift into maternity leave without allowing my brain turn into mush? Some of the fears that are coming up for me is just, I don't want to lose my competitive edge. I don't want to lose myself. I'm 36 years old. This is my first baby. I don't know who I am as a mother. I want to redefine where the edge is for this season. And so the edge now is shifting from an external output of performance and having something to tangibly show for the work. Here's what I did. Here's the report. Here's the finished product. Here's the milestones and outcomes and KPIs, right? That is now shifting. And my new edge is going to manifest as presence, adaptability, creativity, and then reframing. Part of the reframe for me really comes down to this idea that me not working doesn't mean that I'm dropping out of being productive and being able to leverage, my brain and my skills. It's more so looking at it rather from a standpoint of I'm expanding actually my skill set in new ways that corporate life will never, ever give me. The emotional depth, the intuition, the awareness, these skills that I'm going to be able to utilize forever that come with raising a baby. Everything's new. And so there can't not be growth that I can take with me. And so reframing this as maternity leave as power and not loss. And not thinking about this as tapping out or not being behind or think that I'm losing out on something. If anything, I'm going to the greatest training camp that's ever existed. Or once I'm a month or two in, I'd love to record another episode that kind of looks back at some of these things, the recognizing where the fear has come from and seeing, hey, is that where it stayed? Were there new sources of fear that came up? How did the redefining of this season go and the reframing of the whole thing? And reflecting on how identity is evolving for me. All right. So that was the synopsis, kind of a mixed bag of brief little summary of how I was approaching my time and my mindset and some of the intentions before mat leave. And so now me in current day gets a chance to look back at myself and respond because boy, things have changed. So I've organized this in kind of a couple different segments. So I may bop around a bit, but let's just dive right in. So one of the things that I talked about a lot was the fear around losing my edge, and losing my sense of self. And all I got to say in response to that is sense of self, she gone. Jess was lost there for a minute, and there's still parts of her that are lost. But Jess, as you know it or knew it back in January, I think she exploded at birth. So we're here now. We're picking up the pieces still, and have been over the last 6 months. Now that I'm officially at the 6-month postpartum as of Tuesday. Yes, we have a 6-month-old. Insane. But we're still picking up the pieces of sense of self and we're putting them back together. Look, I've never been good at puzzles, but this is one where it's an advanced puzzle. Okay. If this was a ski hill, it'd be Black Diamond. I hope I got that right. I'm not even a skier. I'm not a puzzler. I'm not a skier. So it's all new. And I think it's really cute that I was curious and worried about losing my sense of self, because I think it's, man, there's an element of needing to lose yourself in order to step into this new identity. So I think it's all part of the process, but it is very jarring because you're a bit like, okay, my sense of self, where'd it go? So much of our sense of self is wrapped into what we do, right? Our day-to-day schedule, what we do at our jobs, the projects we have going, the people in our lives in relation to us. And after you have a baby and you're in postpartum and you're on mat leave, all of that is gone. Life as you know it is completely different. And so your sense of self also gets rocked. There's also this focus on recognizing where the fear of some of the things for me were coming from. And I talked about this fear being from society and some of the programming that we get there. And I was curious if that source of fear would stay the same or change or adapt, which means the same thing, change or adapt. But were there new sources of fear that came up? Yes. Yes, there were a lot. The first thing that I think is kind of a blanket fear is just the pure vulnerability that you feel during this phase. Everything is new. You are just like a little newborn yourself, taking care of a newborn, and you're in this phase of learning, and it's just so vulnerable. I will sing this from the rooftops forever, that postpartum is just the most vulnerable experience that anyone can ever go through, because there's a lot of eyes on you. It's new. You're learning. You don't know how to handle certain things. You're still navigating, right? Picking up the pieces of yourself. The sheer overwhelm that comes with just the marketing of being a new mom. You got to have this. There's this routine you got to start them on. There's this tool, there's that. You've got the marketing, a lot of it is based in fear too. Like, oh, do you want a healthy kid? You got to buy this. Oh, you want your kid to sleep? Here's the tool to work it. So navigating through all of that too. Just the vulnerability of it all just adds into the fear of being seen, of doing it the right way, of being a good mom, of approaching it in the best way. So yes, I'm bucketing that, just the pure fact of just how vulnerable you are leading into some of the fears and anxiety that come up postpartum is real. The other thing that just kind of source of fear was I did not prepare for postpartum. I prepared for the birth. We took a birth class. I was taking great care of myself during my pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. I was doing all of the things. I was really truly in bliss during a lot of my pregnancy, which I know is not a universal experience. So I'm very grateful for that. But having had a very quote unquote smooth, from a medical standpoint, pregnancy, and going into the postpartum phase was night and day, literally, like so different. And I knew I'd be tired in postpartum, and I knew that I'd be, you know, consumed, of course, with taking care of a baby, but no one warned me about the isolation and some of the mood swings and the emotions that would come from just the sheer, hormonal shifts that your body's doing. Going from being out in the world and having community and things to do and places to go and all of that, to then being really isolated in the experience of one-on-one taking care of the baby with your husband in the four walls of your house was really, really different and new. And I realized actually just how much I am an extrovert in some ways where I do need that relational interaction to really know who I am and navigate feeling good and being reminded of who I am through community and through some of the, like the workout classes that I would go to and all of that. So that was a big one too. Um, Another source of fear was my body. Trying to get used to this new body. And I talked a little bit on my Instagram about how my perspective of my body shifted from, when you're pregnant, you have you're connected to the life, the creative life force energy. You are nourishing yourself in new ways. You are maybe not as, like, for me, I wasn't as nitpicky or anxious about food, or my body dysmorphia seemed to fade away during this time too. And I felt very connected to this growing life inside me and nourishing myself, and had this huge appreciation and really awe and wonder about this life that I was able to create in my body without even thinking about it. Like, it just does it on its own, which just felt so magical to me every day. And so nourishing it and taking care of it was easy. I didn't have a lot of the noise in the back of my head around the body dysmorphia and all of that. And so there's this fear of, okay, what now? I don't feel like myself. I don't look like myself. And this fear of, I need to bounce back. And that also being interesting too, because knowing that this bouncing back and, snapping back and looking good right away and getting back to yourself and your old clothes and all of this stuff is an external pressure. But I also wanted to do that. Like, there was a part of me that did want to quote unquote bounce back, and another part that thought that was complete bullshit because, like, why put this extra pressure on women to even do that in the first place? But part of it was tied to wanting to just feel like myself again. And this interim of having to navigate, just really grapple with the in between of not yet feeling like yourself, not yet looking like yourself, and being okay with that without fearing this is going to be forever, right? Like, I'm always going to feel like this, was a big one for me too. There's also something that I shared before I birthed my daughter, was how I plan to redefine the season and reframe some of the fears and expectations that I had about maternity leave in the first place. And, how did that play out? Uh, Honestly, lost sight of it completely. Didn't even think about the episode once. I'm not kidding. Taking care of a baby is a full body experience. It's a 100% 24/7, no half-assing it kind of experience. And so it overtakes you completely, like full immersion into caretaking. And so it's kind of funny and cute to listen back to the episode, because in the episode, it's clear that I have this perspective that I'm going to have a lot of time, and I'm going to have to organize that time, and this idea that I'll have time to even plan how to approach the time. And there was none of that. Like, I never felt like I was like, okay, I have this day. How do I want to approach the day? It was literally like, wake up and dive into whatever was happening at the time and just surviving. Some days were just surviving, while other days were, okay, I've got the hang of, this feed, and she's on a little bit of a rhythm with this or that. But most days there was no rhythm, there was no schedule, there wasn't anything. So trying to plan or like approach the day and frame it in any certain way wasn't a thing. It was not a thing. So I just sort of leaned into the go with the flow every day and take care of my daughter as she needs. And that's a very different way of how I've lived my life the rest of my 37 years. I have had opportunities to plan and approach and be intentional about my time, where this maternity leave, there was none of that. It was really just diving in, keeping an eye, constantly anticipating what may come next and being available. So it was really, really interesting. This also showed me just how much my connection, my personal connection of self-worth and productivity, just how deep those two are interconnected and how God, just intertwined they are. Because I talk a lot about, sorry, my dog. What's going on, Charlie? You good, man? I talked a lot about just how I wanted to downshift, right, my productivity and lean into a different type of productivity, caretaking, nurturing, being intuitive with caretaking, being compassionate, right, being patient is a very different level or type of productivity. And I still think that is productivity. Then cross off the list, do this, do that, run here, write this article, like reach out to this person, yada, yada. So that shift it was eye-opening just how much I felt my worth dwindling, not having this external tangible thing to show for it. Look, I crossed off everything on the list. Look, I did this. Here's the finished report. Here's the project, blah, blah, blah. So that was big for me. And so I still have a lot of work I think I need to do around separating worth and productivity, but that runs deep over here, deep, which is crazy because I don't know about you, but if you also experience this and have a relationship to productivity and worth is boom right there, your self-worth is right connected to it. When you think about that in terms of taking care of a human, it's like, yo, keeping a baby alive is literally doing the most. And it's just sad that I was grappling a lot with how that didn't feel like doing the most or enough. So that made me sad at times and still is something that I think is unfolding. And that relationship to self-worth and productivity is still something that I'm going to be unpacking a lot. This other element too of self-worth and like redefining the season is, part of self-worth is there's an element of being seen. And something that shifted a lot for me going from pregnant to then postpartum was being pregnant. I really felt like a goddess, okay? A pregnant goddess where people would like bring me stuff and make sure I was fed and make sure my water bottle was full and ask me about how I personally am and remember what I said before and check in on that thing. And it was a lot of focus on really just caretaking and ushering me through the pregnancy, which felt just unusual and amazing. I loved it. I felt just so well taken care of, not only from what I was doing, but society sees pregnant women and like you get the door held for you. Hey, let me hold that for you. How about you go first? Like all of that is really built in. And then there's this thing called you birth the baby, and then you transfer into a postpartum peasant, which in other ways I like to call this phenomenon like step aside and give me the baby. And, it is what it is. And duh, of course I want people to show and nurture and care for my daughter. But it's jarring because for 9 months, you have this big focus on ushering you and your pregnancy and the baby and honoring this body that you have in growing and growing this baby. And everyone's on board with it. And going from that to then this isolated postpartum, you don't have your typical routine. You aren't able to go places that you've gone for different reasons, walks outside, workout classes. You don't see your friends here and there when you're out and about. To then also have this you as a main focus go into the background and it be about the baby is tough because um you don't feel as much of that care and support. Um, for us, we had about a month of people supporting us with food. Like my best friend Brittany, like gave us 2 weeks of food from the Good Egg, which is based out of Berkeley in the Bay Area. So good. That was so helpful. My mother-in-law dropped off like frozen burritos for the morning. My mom dropped off a casserole and a couple different casseroles and like banana bread and all this stuff. So for about a month, we were good on food. We didn't have a lot of people staying with us. We had no people staying with us long term to take care, do any like night shifts or any like night doula or any postpartum doula or anything like that. We had people come and visit, and I was able to take like a nap for 3 hours or something. But after that first month, the support dropped significantly. And so that's where it started to get more difficult. And then once my husband went back to work, it really started to get even more difficult because I was a one-man band for that time period. And so, um, the important time, I think, for people to really lean in, like if you've got a friend who's postpartum or about to have a baby, like put a note in your calendar at month 2 and 3 to really check in. Because at that point, like the baby is still kind of not really interacting, right? They're still in that really newborn, gentle, special phase where, um, they're waking up every 2 to 3 hours. They're eating every 2 to 3 hours. You're really, really hands on. They're not smiling yet. They're not laughing yet. They're not really engaging with you. So it's a lot of doing day in, day out, doing the work and, not having a ton of that reciprocation that comes at month 4 with baby, where you're like, oh, I could do this all day. Like the baby smiles at me. Yes, I've got the energy. There is a little bit of that two-way. So it's just interesting, right? All of that to be said. But there's this thing of like, don't forget to still see the birthing parent in their postpartum journey, is I guess what I'm getting at with that. Um, let's see, reflecting on identity, how that is evolving for me. Okay, so I think it really took me 4 solid months until I felt like I was getting sort of like some of the mom stuff down. At 4 months, I had gone more places. I had more time to kind of learn my baby's cues. In that, every day I was getting more and more confident with learning her cues. Um, you'll just wake up every single day with just a little bit more confidence and notice that in the little moments. So, like, I would notice my confidence gaining, like, oh, I have a little bit less butterflies and nerves before loading the car, or like that nervous twinge that I would feel in saying yes to an event where I would bring her kind of fades a bit, or packing a diaper bag becomes second nature, or memorizing the things that you'll need for an overnight trip, or like all of that adding up really helped me in creating more of an identity of like, I've got this. Like, I am a mom. I know how to do these things. Like, it's starting to become second nature in some of these ways. And so all of it becomes less daunting. And through that, I feel like I've been able to step more and more into that identity of like, yeah, I'm a mom. I've got this. So I think everything builds with time, and just be patient as your identity reveals itself to you. Because my motherhood, um, identities will be unfolding forever for the rest of my life, right? It will be evolving alongside my daughter. It'll be evolving as I learn and grow and change and all of those things. Um, One of the things I want to mention too in identity is there was this thing that happened to me that really tripped me out. Like, because I kept thinking a lot in those long days, long nights, right? Like just kind of sitting there, and there's a lot of time to just be with your thoughts and navigate through it, because you don't have free hands to like scroll or distract. You're maybe watching TV, maybe not, I don't know, but a lot of the time you're just kind of in your head going through different things. And there was this thought that came up a lot around like there's no going back, and it was really intense. And it's not that I wanted to go back to pre-momville or go back to not having my daughter. It was just that's how our brain works, right? Our brain likes to go back and ponder on things that it already knows, that things that are within its comfort zone. And so having to just realize and focus that there is no going back, and showing grace that, there may be some grieving involved in this, because going back is nostalgic. Going back to something that I know is comforting for my brain. Going back to something that I know is part of what I've known my whole life. And so there's maybe some of that letting go of letting go of everything that you know, everything that you are, and that can be really, really scary because, well, what's going to fill that? If I let go of everything that I know and everything that I am, then what? It leaves it wide open. Our brain doesn't like the unknown. Our brain doesn't like that wide open space. I know this firsthand. This is kind of a little side note, but I was in Peru in 2019, with a group of people, and we were working with the sacred plant Wachuma, which is San Pedro. And during that journey, I actually had an experience where I was sitting deep in the Tihani Canyon in Peru, and we were surrounded by all of this beautiful nature, just the rolling rocks, and having the rocks reflect pictures. And we had this beautiful, like, Peruvian band that was playing out because we hiked out into this canyon. And so we were working with the plant medicine, and about, I don't even know what time it was or how long we had taken the plant medicine to begin with, because you really do go into this transformational experience. If you've worked with plant medicine, you know about that. But anyway, I was sitting there on this rock looking out into this canyon, and I was instructed by the medicine to hold either one of my hands out. And in one hand, I had everything that I know, everything that I've possibly known in this lifetime. In the other hand, I had everything that I am, so my identity. And I was guided to release both and welcome in the unknown and welcome in a new version of myself and allow for that space to happen. And it was very, very scary because, again, it's wide open. You don't know what's going to fill that space. This experience reminded me of that a lot, because there's this trust that you have to have, and there's this love that you have to have for yourself, just as you will your daughter or son, right? Welcoming whoever they are and whatever they might be into. And so you're invited in postpartum to do the same for yourself in the form of welcoming a new identity. And so do that. Welcome her. Be nice to her. She's nervous and she's new here and she's trying her best. So that was a big one of just like, there's no going back. And what does that mean for me? It means letting go of what was, what I thought what was, and being open to what is now. One of the other things that I realized about myself too, and is, part of my identity in navigating the world is, thinking about myself as a fairly confident person. And so me feeling out of whack, tired, uh, tired doesn't even do it justice, sleep deprived, just completely just out of my rhythm, like a fish out of water, completely vulnerable, starting over in a lot of ways, like a newborn, is I needed to just relearn everything and regain that confidence. And it felt very bizarre to me, and it made me feel even less like myself, because I've always been able to at least find some level of confidence in me, even in situations where it's like, you're meeting this new person, you're doing this new thing, you're going to this new place. I was always able to find some deep within me, like, confidence to go do the thing. Like, I'm adventurous. I want to meet new people. I want to go. I want to try new things. But that confidence was like dried up. I'm like, where'd it go? And that made me feel very, very bizarre. Um, at 6 months postpartum, I think is the biggest identity shift. Um, because there's this tremendous gift of perspective that becoming a mom gives you. Um, and this is something that is shifting my identity. And 6 months at this point, I'm back at work. I've been back at work for a month now. And so it's maybe part of it is being back at work and doing some of the things that I know how to do, in my profession and all of that. But at 6 months, there's this identity shift that I've gone through where, God, it puts my life in perspective so deeply. Like, I have this 6 month old that is reliant on my every move, that I'm taking care of, that I am nurturing. I have a husband here. We have our family unit. And so it sort of helps identify what is important and what is not right away. Whereas before I was married and before I had my daughter, which I was pregnant for our wedding. So both of those kind of that identity shift into motherhood and into being a wife um is is like linked for me. And that'll always be linked for me because I've never been just one or the other. But having that perspective of, okay, what really truly matters here? Is it really all this noise at work and this, you know, toxic situation over here, or whether or not, I show up looking this way or that, all of that kind of quiets out and you have this clear priority of like, okay, like my baby and my husband are my everything, right? They're what I am focused on right now. They are key. It really helps just navigate some of the priorities. Like, all right, now I know what I want to do and what not. And that to me is helping with this identity shift because, you know, um, being a mom is the biggest priority. Being a wife is the biggest priority. And so it helps me ID what I should say yes and no to a little bit quicker. Um, like even this week, I had two different engagements that I was going to go do. And I just looked at my calendar and I was just like, God, old me would identify with saying yes to all those things as a badge of honor, and I would go and follow through with them because that's who I am. And now I'm like, look, you only have so much time and energy. Like, you're a mom, you're a wife. Like, we're going to say no to those things, even though we already said yes, and it's okay to change our mind. And it doesn't mean anything about who I am. It just helps me to determine where I'm going to go, how I'm going to spend my time a little bit easier. Um, so, so that's been really cool in terms of kind of capacity planning and all of that as coming from a planner like me. The last thing I want to say about identifying as a mom is, and this came as a treat and also I didn't expect it, but once you become a mom, you're part of this secret society that no one tells you about. And I love being part of it. So one of the things that I've noticed the most is you will talk to a mom, and I notice it at work a lot because, at work there's this level of we've got to keep it somewhat surface. I mean, of course, you're good buddies you can go deep with, but there has to be a level of trust to go deep and to be vulnerable and share this or that, whatever. Once you become a mom and you're talking to another mom, you bypass all of that, like needing to gain trust and like get to know each other and do the small talk stuff before you go deep. You just go deep right away. And you just have open-hearted, deep conversations right away. And I love that. I love that. Like, I could meet a woman and within 5 minutes, we're talking about our nipples falling off, right? In month one of postpartum. Or like, there's something else that you're just like, ugh, like you're just so seen in this transition, in all of the milestones and everything. It's the coolest feeling and I love it. And I don't know why moms don't talk about it more, but it's so special. This week, I took our daughter to her first music class for her 6-month birthday, her first half birthday. And I had said to the lady next to me, because of course I had my daughter dressed in this like elaborate dress that she wore. She wore it at a first wedding she went to. I'm like, she's never going to fit in this again. So let's put this on her. And the lady next to me, the other mom at this music class, was like, oh my gosh, I love her dress. It's so cute. I said, oh, thanks. It's her 6-month birthday. She looked me dead in the eyes and was just like, good job, mom. And I just was like, oh, like I just feel so seen in that because it's such a big milestone for her, for my daughter, but it's also such a big milestone for you as a mom. Like to get to 6 months, to have gone through the initial phase of the first 40 days of postpartum, to make it through maternity leave, to return to work is huge. And she just gave me such this loving vibe and the softest eyes. And I will remember that feeling forever. So just know that if you're becoming a mom or you are a mom, like hallelujah for the secret society. I absolutely love it. It's so cool. So that's that. Like, I know I jumped around a bunch and there's a lot that we could dive into further, and you better believe I'm going to. I have been riffing on all things momhood on my Substack called Momhood. And so if you're interested in talking more about momhood and parenthood and all the things, join the conversation over there, share your insights. I am most curious about, how did mat leave differ than what you thought it was going to be? How did it transform you? What are you grappling with? I'm also doing a lot on Threads. So Instagram's like version of Twitter X. And so you can share your insights with me on there. But I'd love for you to come over to my momhood on Substack, because I'm having a lot of fun doing that. This is a soft launch with that because I haven't announced it anywhere else, and I'm still building up my writing. But the plan there is to publish a free newsletter every single month, and then for paid subscribers, going deeper on momhood topics and all of that, and sharing some of the behind the scenes. I love that I can be like 100% raw and transparent behind the paywall, because then I don't know, I can say whatever I want, like I do in my books. Yeah. And here. But I just feel like I can't do that on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like, so it's cool to have an avenue where I can just kind of like journal and connect with you. But that is that. I am sending hugs to all of you moms out there. You are not alone. And if you are heading into mat leave, done with mat leave, whatever, like I see you wholeheartedly, completely. Next episode, you're going to hear my reflections on how it was returning to work after mat leave. It's a whole thing. I have a lot to say about it. I also have a whole article on the return to work, if you want to get a preview on that already, on my Momhood Substack. That's that. Super fun to look back and just respond and reflect. So this was fun for me. Virtual hugs to all the moms out there. I see you. You are doing great. All right. Take good care, and I'll see you on a future episode. Toodaloo.